So, laundry days come to a screeching halt, all thanks to a weird error code on your washing machine. If you're staring at that blinking F3/E3, just take a breath, you're in the right place. We're going to walk through exactly what that means and how to fix it step by step. Yep, that's the one. It looks super technical, right? But really, that code is your washer's way of telling you exactly what's wrong. Think of it as a clue. So let's get into what it's trying to say.
So what the F3/E3 error really means is thermal overload. Basically, it's a built-in safety feature. The motor in your washer is working way too hard, it's getting super hot, and the machine is smartly shutting itself down to avoid a total meltdown. Our mission is to figure out why it's so overworked. Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to decode what this error is all about. Then, we'll try the absolute easiest fix, what I call the 60-minute reset. If that doesn't work, we'll go on a hunt for anything physically jamming the machine. And for those of you feeling a bit more adventurous, we'll dig into some electrical checks to really nail down the cause.
All right, let's dive into part 1. Before we touch a single thing on the washer, let's just make sure we fully understand what's happening when that F3/E3 code pops up.
You know, it usually comes down to one of 4 things. Most of the time, there's a real, physical reason the motor is overheating. But sometimes, it could be a bad sensor fooling the system, a problem with the main computer, the control board, or even just a communication breakdown between the two. We're going to check these in order, from the most likely culprit to the least.
Okay, time to take our first action. And before you even think about grabbing a screwdriver, we're going to do the single most important and by far the easiest step in this whole process. Honestly, this alone can sometimes solve the whole issue.
And look, I'm going to say this loud and clear because it is so important. Before you do anything else, before your hands go anywhere inside or behind that machine, unplug it from the wall. I mean it. Electricity and water are a bad mix. Safety is everything here. Once it's unplugged, go ahead and set a timer on your phone for a full hour. This gives that hot motor plenty of time to cool down and allows its internal safety switch to reset. Now while you're waiting, you can do 2 quick checks. First, just reach inside and give the tub a spin by hand. How does it feel? Is it moving easily? And second, just make sure all the water actually drained out. A tub full of heavy, wet clothes and water puts a massive strain on the motor.
So, the reset didn't fix it? No worries. That just means it's time to play detective. See, an overheated motor is just a symptom. The real problem is usually something physical that's jamming up the works, forcing that motor to struggle.
So what are we hunting for, exactly? Well, the list of culprits is pretty common. We could be dealing with a worn-out belt, something as small as a coin or a sock stuck in the drain pump, or, and this happens all the time, something caught between the inner and outer tubs. On rare occasions, it could be a bigger issue like the transmission.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Don't immediately assume you have a huge, complicated electrical failure on your hands. I'd say 9 times out of 10, the problem is mechanical. The motor is just the messenger here. If you can find what's physically stopping things from moving freely, you've probably found your fix.
Okay, so you've searched high and low for a physical jam and you've come up empty. Now we have to start thinking electrically. And this is a big turning point. This next section is really for those of you who are comfortable and confident working with electronics. If you're not, that is totally okay. This is probably the point where you'd think about calling in a professional.
Yep, to go any further from here, you're going to need one specific tool, a multimeter. We're going to use it to check for electrical continuity. Just make sure you know how to set it to the ohms setting. It looks like a little horseshoe or an omega symbol.
This is it, the big test. Once you get access to the motor, you're going to test its thermal protector. All you're doing is checking to see if electricity can pass through it. If the protector is good, your multimeter will read something really close to 0. But if you see OL on that screen, that stands for open line, and that, my friends, is your smoking gun. It means the protector has failed and the entire motor assembly needs to be replaced.
All right, let's pull all this information together. After going through all these diagnostic steps, you should have a really solid idea of what's gone wrong. So now, it's time to match our diagnosis with the right solution.
Think of this table as your cheat sheet. It makes it super simple. If you found something jamming the works, the fix is to get it out of there or replace the worn part. If those multimeter tests on the motor failed, the solution is a new motor. And only after you've ruled out everything else should you even start to suspect the main control board.
And really, this flowchart is the whole process, from start to finish. It's the logical path we took, starting with the simplest, easiest step, unplugging it, and then working our way down the funnel to the more specific, technical tests at the end.
Which brings us right here to the final and maybe the most important question of all. Based on what you've discovered and, more importantly, your own comfort level, what's your next move? Are you going to tackle this yourself, or is it time to bring in a professional?
So here's the bottom line. If the idea of taking the machine apart or messing around with a multimeter makes you nervous, the smartest and safest thing you can do is call a certified technician. And there's absolutely no shame in that. In fact, you've already done the tough part by figuring out what the problem is, and that information alone can save you a bunch of time and money on the final repair.